Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Qul a'udhu birabbil falaq. Min sharri ma khalaq. Wa min sharri ghasikin idha waqab. Wa min sharri nafathati fil uqad. Wa min sharri hasidin idha hasad. Say, I seek refuge with the Lord of the dawn from the mischief of created things, from the mischief of darkness as it overspreads, from the mischief of those who practice secret arts, and from the mischief of the envious one as they practice envy. So today we're going to talk about Hasad. Hasad is, we're going to talk about the implications of Hasad. We're going to talk about what makes Hasad so dangerous, and also we'll try to get into the treatments for envy. See, for every disease, generally there's a cure. If it is not one yet, we'll look for it. So, for kibber, like big-headedness and all of that, and another type of arrogance. There's all of these religious diseases. And for each one of them, if you read Imam Ghazali, or even, in fact, I got the writings come from both Imam Ghazali and Imam Khomeini. They're almost word for word the same. And I was looking at Imam's writing on the subject. They said his evolution, and it talked about from about 1923 to about 1940. And see, Hamid al-Ghazali is a Persian. And he wrote this book, Ihya Ulumuddin, during the time that the Sunnis were dominant in Iran. See, Iran became a Shia state about 400 years after the Prophet ﷺ. It didn't just pop up and it was Shia. It became the Safavids, that dynasty that ruled. It figured, how they be planning and scheming. Since we had just released ourselves from Arab domination, and we had just become, let's see what we're going to do. Oh, we just become Shias. And that's what they did. So, now Imam Ghazali, his greatest writing was Ihya Ulumuddin, the illnesses and the treatments of the human soul and what have you, and the cure. So, I'm going to read first from Imam Ghazali, and then we'll go into a little bit more depth. Aisha radiallahu anha said, I did not see the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam take revenge for any wrong till anybody did unlawful things ordained by God. In other words, the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not take revenge on people for what they did to him. Almost no matter what it was. But if you violated Allah's rules, then he had to bring the Sharia down. When he did any unlawful thing ordained by God, his wrath knew no bounds. That's the person of the people. When two things were presented before him, he used to select the easier one, that it contained no sin. Uqba radiallahu anhu said, once I met the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and handshaked with him hastily out of respect. And he said, "Oh, Uqba, shall I not inform you of the limitless virtuous acts of the travelers of the world and of the next? Join the tie of relationship which is severed by anybody." In other words, join relationship. These is a good. Give charity to one who deprives you of something. Give charity to one who deprives you of something. Remember, there's a revelation in the Quran when there was some fitna in the community, and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, I ain't gonna give my relatives, them relatives, I ain't giving them nothing. And then the ayat comes down that, basically straighten that out. Your near relatives, Kharibun, those are the people who are near relatives. Okay.
He slandered his nephew, slandered his daughter.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
I just need to see the little mic piece real quick. I need
Yes,
to increase
yes.
the volume on it just a little bit.
Okay, this one right here. Okay.
Should be good. So, it's loud.
It says, give charity to one who deprives you of something. Pardon one who does any wrong to you. The Prophet ﷺ said, when the merciful Lord will raise up all the creatures on the resurrection day, a proclaimer will proclaim 3 times from underneath the throne, O followers of Tawheed, God has forgiven you, so forgive one another. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reports that the Prophet ﷺ prayed 2 rakats within the Kaaba after Tawaf, after the conquest of Mecca. Then he entered the Kaaba and placing his hands on the door of the Kaaba addressed the Quraysh. What do you see and what treatment do you expect? The Quraysh said, we are your brothers and children of the patient and the kind uncle of yours. They repeated it 3 times. Prophet ﷺ said, I'm telling you what Yusuf has said to his brothers. Today there is no reproach against you. May God forgive you, and he is the best of forgiving, the most compassionate. They then went away as if they arose from their graves. Afterwards, they all accepted Islam. We say this almost every week, that after the conquest of Mecca, I think it was around in the 8th year of the Hijrah, of course the Quraysh had been the main enemies of Islam, and when the Prophet, peace be upon him, was at the Kaaba, he prayed 2 rakats, and then he went to the door and talked to the people. He said, what do y'all expect of me? So, they said, oh boy, look at him. He's just come from a good crew, and you're just as nice as you could be. And your uncle, we was all right with him. And hey, man. So he said, I say the same thing to you that Yusuf said to his brothers, La tatraba, no reproach this day. So that's what he said. That's what he did. And believe it or not, everybody just became Muslim after being arch opponents of Islam. This other one is the same basic thing, this hadith. These hadith are contained in Imam Ghazali's writing. This is on envy. There are many sayings of the Prophet ﷺ regarding envy. The Prophet said, as fire destroys fuel, so envy destroys virtues. He said, don't envy one another, don't forsake one another, don't hate one another, don't trade over the trade of another. It said, O the servants of Allah, be brothers to one another. Anas radiallahu anhu said, once we were seated near the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just now one of the inmates of paradise will pass this way. It was then found that the Ansar was coming by that pathway. Abdullah ibn Umayr radiallahu anhu informed him of the Prophet's saying about him and asked him for what thing he earned that rank. He said, I don't envy any Muslim for any gift on him from Allah. The Prophet ﷺ then said, no man escapes from three things: bad conjecture, envy, and evil sign. I am teaching you the means to get rid of these things. If there's a bad conjecture, don't believe it. When you find an evil sign, don't believe it. When you hate, don't inquire about it. You know, when hateful stuff is happening, don't delve into it. Or just let it go. If it's serious, okay, now remember, we're talking about the highest treatments of certain evils or certain things that come in life. Now, envy is so bad on the human soul and the human spirit. It brings so much darkness and so much dejection, right? That actually, I'll get to this later, that actually the person that envies something that Allah has given another man, right? That envy causes him, that person is now disturbed about Allah's gifts to that person. He's basically saying Allah is unfair, Allah is unjust. Look what Allah gave him, right? So he's challenging Qadr also. Taqdir, the measure of Allah, the Qadr of Allah. That if a certain person came with a certain characteristic, okay, then if we hate that person or disturbed or envious of that person, then we're mad at Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But let me go on. I spared peace amongst you. I was skipping a lot, but I heard envy. He said, no man escapes from three things: bad conjecture, envy, and evil sign. Okay. The habits of earlier generations have attacked you: envy and hatred. Hatred is shaving. I don't say that it shaves hair, but it shaves religion. Let me go over that again. The Prophet ﷺ said that envy is shaving. He said, I'm not saying shaving your hair. This shaves your religion. This is constantly cutting back on your religion. By one in whose hand bears my life, of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will not enter paradise until you believe. You will not believe until you love one another. Shall I not inform you what thing will establish you on it? Spread peace amongst yourselves. That's why last week, 2 weeks ago, we've been constantly dealing with peace. The rules and regulations when you're a contending brother fight, make peace between them. You can't, then what? Find out which one is right, which one is wrong, and fight you all together to make the one that's wrong become right. The Prophet said poverty was about to come near infidelity, and envy was about to overcome taqdir, measure, qadr. The Prophet said, the behaviors of the other nations will soon attack my people. The companions asked, what are the behaviors of other nations? He said, pleasures and enjoyments, heedlessness, abundant wealth, rivalry in this world based on envy, to think one another as distant, to envy one another, to rise rebellion, and then to live in dangers and calamities. The Prophet ﷺ said, don't express joy at the sorrows of your brother. Perchance Allah may forgive him and let you down in the calamity. In other words, we see somebody with something, and boy, we say, they got it too good. And we kind of hope that they lose that, but we'll get to that in a minute. He does not become disobedient. He does not roam with slander. Zechariah said, Allah says, an envious man is an enemy of my gifts, dissatisfied with Allah's decree, and dissatisfied with the division of gifts which I have distributed amongst my servants. Now, the jealous person is totally dissatisfied. And even in the Quran, there's ayats where they asked about prophets, in wonderment about, you guys just like us, man. How can you be, so big, coming teaching us? You just like we are, right?
Yeah.
So they're amazed that, no, we need something special, something extra. Fine carpet, all that stuff, we're ready for that.
Angels, yeah.
Angels, yeah, but why would an angel would not be a good leader for us because we're not angels?
Right.
And they don't have to do anything. They all they do, according to what I understand, is hymn the praises of Allah. That's all they do. They cannot break the rules of Allah. Like in Christianity, the devil was a fallen angel, or Lucifer, the light guy, he was a fallen angel. Well, he couldn't be in Islam, because they can't. They ask a lot of questions like, you're going to create the Musa who can cause trouble and shed blood. Allah just tell them, I know what you know not. I know this thing I've created. I know his limits, I know his capacity, and I know you too. I know this whole thing. Ain't nothing happening gonna surprise Alexander. There's nothing that's gonna happen gonna surprise Allah, Okay. Let me go. God's creature. The greatest of what I fear for my followers is increase in their wealth, for which they will envy one another and quarrel with one another. The Prophet ﷺ said, pray for help for fulfillment of secret necessities, as every wealthy man is an object of envy. A ruler for his oppression, a desert Arab for his unjust love. This is saying, these people. Prophet ﷺ said, they asked, who are they, the people that will enter hell without any account? And it goes on to say, a ruler for his oppression, a desert Arab for his unjust love for his tribe, a rich man for his pride, a village man for his foolishness, and a learned man for his envy. These guys, it appears that, I don't know how strong this hadith is, but they're going directly to hell, just like a martyr goes directly to heaven. They're not going to stop off in Barzak or nowhere like that. They're going to oppressive ruler. And then there's hadith about these oppressive rulers, to be careful about my servants, because there's no petition between the doer of the oppressed and Allah. And they never seem to remember that. They just keep on oppressing. Okay. When God showers gifts on a person, two conditions arise in your mind. The first condition is that you do not love those gifts for him, and like that, those gifts should go away from him, that those gifts should go away from him. Sometimes in English, in these, you have to know what they're trying to say, and we'll get back to this in a minute. The second condition is that you do not wish that the gifts should go away from him, but that those gifts may be bestowed on you also. This is talking about envy. So it says, there's no envy except for gifts. When Allah showers gifts on any person, two conditions arise in the mind. Then it explains the first condition, that you do not love those gifts, should be from him, and like that those gifts should go away from you. The first condition is you don't necessarily want the people to lose the gifts they had. You know, maybe you just want them yourself, you know. Okay. Prophet ﷺ said, a believer makes efforts based on competition, but a hypocrite envies. Remember, it's legal to compete in goodness and righteousness, but it's not saying that the envious guy is lazy. He just don't want to compete in righteousness, that's all. That's what it says. The hypocrite envies, so he just envies. You know, instead of practicing this good competition, which competition actually helps you develop. We say competition and cooperation. This capitalist system is based on competition, so it says. But you know, like, if you're on a team or anything, you can help each other develop in many ways. I used to study weightlifting, and if your team, you can have your team that competes with each other on the same team. Right. I'm going to lift more iron than anybody. Right. Or you could have the type of team that they pulling for you. Come on now, you got it. And they may touch the bar just a little bit to help 1/3 of a pound and get it up. They're cooperating with you. So there's semi-competition, but you're cooperating to help each other evolve. Or you can compete. Usually straight-out competition develops some slyness,